to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Hey, well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of Inside Personal Growth. I was just joking with Seth on the other end of the line, who's joining us from Los Angeles in the Valley, and he has a new book out called Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. A really, really great book with an amazing story. I'm going to say part autobiography, but also part vision of helping people find not only their spiritual past, but their true selves. Good day to you, Seth. How are you?
Hey, Greg, how are you? Good to talk to you again.
Well, it's good to have you on the show, and I'm glad we got this opportunity for you to share not only some of your autobiography, but really how you're helping people transform their lives. And he has a website that I want to make an announcement about called truekingsacademy.com. We'll put a link in the show notes below for that so that everybody can get that. And he's got an online Zoom session that begins on 9/9/25. And I'd like for you, everybody, to go there, check out his courses, his retreats, and you're going to learn a little bit about him right here from me, but you're going to learn more about him when he tells his own story. So we're going to diving into really Seth's, what I call, new book, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. This is exploring the spiritual transformation, his journey from Broadway stages to jungle depths, and how he's now helping others discover their own path to authentic living and higher consciousness. Seth is a dynamic and multi-talented performer, renowned as one of today's most exciting and versatile entertainers. As a dancer, singer, actor, writer, director, and choreographer, Seth is truly the triple threat, they say, who's made his indelible mark on Broadway and beyond. His extraordinary journey spans from the bright lights of Broadway to the depths of spiritual awakening in nature. He first gained his widespread recognition, and he was on the original cast of Hamilton. You can look him up. He was in Sex and the City, Music and Lyrics, and Friends with Benefits. He's toured globally. He's a well-known performer around. But really, his book, Live Your Vision, is this memoir where he shares this transformative journey that we're going to be talking about today, that all of the listeners out there are going to be interested in kind of hearing your story. Well, Seth, as I was reading your book, you had some pretty interesting childhood experiences, to say the least. And, you've said in this book, you describe yourself from going from the stages of Broadway to the depths of the jungle. Tell the listeners, if you would, what was the moment you kind of realized performing wasn't fulfilling your deepest calling and you had this other calling? I realized all the parts in the book about you being bullied, you were in football, and, I was reading all that, and people saying, well, he's a dancer and he's gay and, all that kind of stuff. And you really get to grab the reader, I'll tell you right away. And I did an excellent job of that because that story really resonates with so many people today. Like, hey, I'm trying to find my calling, right?
Mhm.
And explain how that went for you, especially you finally just getting to this moment like, okay, I had an awakening.
Yeah, no, yeah, so it's basically starting from the beginning. I mean, I grew up playing sports, but I also love dance, and so, again, people make fun of me for dancing or they call me gay and I wasn't, and, that just kind of goes beyond the adolescence era. It's like let people do what they want to do, however they want to do it. And but it was looking back, especially in writing this book, it was like, okay, I've always listened to myself. I've always listened to some form of higher calling and my heart and doing what I want to do. And it's as I continue to do that as I get older, it always leads me to where I want to be. right? You kind of have this calling, and if you kind of answer this internal or higher self call, it always puts you in amazing situations and life experiences and meeting amazing people. I get to meet people like you who are already doing it, and you have a network of amazing people. And so, but that only happens when you listen to yourself, when you follow your inner vision, your vision, God's vision for you, and you follow your heart, and then you actually live that truth. And so, because I listened to myself, I had an amazing experience as a performer for 15, 20 years. And that switch came when, not because I don't want to perform anymore. I love performing, but um, one, the business side of show business kind of took its toll. But more than I didn't run away from anything. I just got what I knew because I had been in practice. I had, been meditating for decades. I knew when it was time that I was going to be doing something completely different, a completely different path. And that call came in an instant, actually, when I was backstage in my last Broadway show, that it was time for me to journey. It was time for me to go gather my medicine, go learn from other people, learning from the lands, traveling the world. And so, again, a full circle was all for me listening to myself and answering that internal call.
Well, look, you've been from the depths of the jungle to ayahuasca to experiences doing a lot of things, right? And obviously, when you open your consciousness and elements of your being to this, you get visions. Your book is aptly titled Follow Your Vision. Um, and I don't say that people, because I've had so many people on that have gone from everything from microdosing certain drugs to being able to open up their mind for PTSD, for various things that are going on in them. You don't actually always need that. And I think your biggest journey was right into the jungle, right? To experience nature and nature at its best. And I had mentioned just a few minutes ago about you open the story of the book, and it's so powerful with the spiritual memory of when you were 3 years old. It's like, who remembers 3 years old of nails coming through the roof during this thunderstorm? And your dad went to go investigate, and the reality was is that I guess something actually had kind of come through the roof. How did these early experiences shape your understanding that there was more beyond this physical world? And then I want to put an add-on question on that because you started having these spiritual experiences very early in life. You just couldn't
Hmm.
explain them all,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's all in the looking back. So I always teach people that I work with, you have to journal, right? Because journaling brings up past memories. It brings up past good memories, some past traumas, but it's an excavation of your mind, of your heart, of your lived experiences, because it's all stored somewhere. And I almost forgot some of these experiences till I started going back in my journals, back and starting to write this book. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, there was that time. Oh, there was that time. And I think keeping a journal just in life, whether it's for business or spiritual or just everything together, to be able to go back and look and actually read your own journal is life changing because you'll pick up things that you forgot. And that's kind of what happened here in the book. But some of those initial spiritual experiences help me not justify, but to understand, oh, this has been happening since I can remember. Not often, but enough peak times to say, okay, so now the experiences I'm having, especially, when working with plant medicine. So, to me, plant medicine or any type of medicine is to be used until it's not needed anymore, till you can turn on those online, inner capacities of your inner voice, of your spirits, and you can pick up on these things, the outer veils without the medicine. Some people abuse the medicine and they've done all these journeys, but that's an abuse of the medicine. It's like taking too much cough syrup. It's like your cough is gone. Figure out how to breathe, right? And and so again, using journaling and then now applying all the way till now, to me, spirituality and gaining that birthright of understanding is an understanding beyond the physical realm. Because there are many, many layers to the spiritual realms and many doorways and pathways, and you can get lost. Um, and life started to make more sense to me once I got beyond the physical realms, when I could see that things were really happening in the spiritual realms, transitioning down here into the physical realms, it all started to make a lot more sense when I could see the bigger picture. I need to see the bigger picture in order for the minutia, the details to make sense to me. That's just how I am as a person.
Well, it's interesting because when people have a picture of themselves and they're running really fast, which would have been your acting world, like, hey, you were always on, you were moving at lightning speed most of the time. And if his
Right.
picture of Seth and it was slammed up against his eyeballs, he wouldn't even recognize it was Seth until Seth took a step back, which is into the jungle, to actually see who the hell Seth was, right?
Yes.
But most of the world operates on this domain, meaning this is where we've been conditioned in life. And to actually take this step to uncondition ourselves or
That's it right
recondition,
there. Hmm.
right, is quite the journey. Now, you write about Mother Earth speaking to you during the first sweat lodge ceremony. And many of my listeners have been through sweat lodges or something experience, or they do breathing, somatic breathing. They're involved in a lot of things. Showing you her pain from humanity's
Hmm.
destruction. Okay. Now, that's really a deep understanding, um, because we have people today that are out trying to get people to wake up to what's going on. Dying species, dying rhinos, elephants, all these guys that are thinking. A friend of mine just did a documentary on uh, uh, perennial farming. So the situation with our farming and losing your
Mm.
soils, right? It's a really big deal. People they aren't even aware.
Yeah.
So how did that vision fundamentally change your relationship when you had this calling from Mother Earth about all the pain she was feeling?
That was that that story that's in the book, which is like my first sweat lodge is, I mean, it's complete darkness. You're sitting on a dirt floor. Luckily I was able to do it with, shamans that had run this in a real way. And I've done many since
Mm.
then. Um, but I was able to, again, when the five senses are mostly turned off, something else has to wake up, which is your inner, your third eye, or your inner listening, your inner ear, right? Your heart ears. And I could hear Earth Mother crying, and like I could see her running from something, which was man. Now it wasn't just a man, but it also was. But she was running from man as a species, because they were trying to hurt her and hurt her children. And I cried in that first sweat lodge. And when I came out of the sweat lodge and it was nighttime and I could see all the stars, I felt like I was a child of the earth again. I felt like I was reborn. It felt like something directly out of the movie The Matrix, where like cords were pulled from different parts of my body and I could breathe again because I could hear her. So it's like I came home to the mother, which is we came from her womb. Like everything that we eat, the sunlight, obviously it's a different, part in the solar system, but we come from the womb of Earth Mother. We return to Earth Mother, our bodies do at least. And so I woke up as a child reborn, you know. Some people, there's born again, all these things. I was a born again child of the earth. And it made me realize how fast I was going, even though I was living my dreams. And in order to hear her, I had to slow all the way down.
Mhm.
And it's the same lessons in spirituality for seekers on their spiritual journey. In order to hear, or in order to travel, all of these things that you want to do, in order to do it, you have to come to complete stillness. And that's just not in the physical, that's in your mind, like taking all your thoughts, extracting them, letting them run, even if it takes months to get to stillness in your heart, for you then to have your spiritual ears and your spiritual eye turned on. And so my reconnection to the Earth Mother through that sweat lodge and many other sweat lodges, I hear her in different parts of the world. She'll let me know that she can feel me there. Um, and I can even notice other people that are children of the earth that are truly have that cord connection to her. It's like seeing my brothers and sisters again. But that doesn't happen unless we slow down enough to hear her and hear ourselves.
Yeah, fundamentally, as society has progressed, there's been a lot that's been gained and a lot that's been lost. And the lost part of that is our consciousness with how to interact with nature. Now, when you left Broadway and society to live in the woods, friends, family, they all thought you'd lost your mind. You were like, what the hell are you doing? Um, how did you navigate the tension between following your authentic calling, your spiritual path, and maintaining relationships with people who didn't understand this journey that you wanted to take? I mean, the reality is, it's like you're it isn't almost, you are, because I've been there. I went through some programs that people just were like, "What are you doing that for?" You're silly, right? When I went and got a degree in spiritual psychology, you're like, "Why are you getting a spiritual? What is all that about? What happened to you? You used to be this financial guy, right?" So it was always this questioning, and I think sometimes silence is the best
I agree.
thing.
You know, my family didn't understand at first, but eventually they realized they had to become supportive because I was already gone. Like I was already in the woods for 6 months, or I was already in another jungle for 3 weeks, or, when I was building my cabin, I was there. I was there. So they're like, "Oh, he's really doing this." My friend group changed quite drastically, and that's okay. But it was really actually me coming online and speaking on social media in 2020 that I would speak my truth, and a lot of people weren't ready for it because they knew me as the performer. But I had also had to realize I didn't give them any preparation for what was already changing in my life the previous years. So they just heard, spirituality, extraterrestrials, plant medicine, and so I realized you have to, whether it's with your family, friends, you have to kind of not necessarily take them on the journey, but let them know what you're doing if you want to, just so by the time you hit an arrival, and I wasn't trying to change anybody's mind either, but I realized through the people that, I guess my audience, they weren't ready for it. So that was a big learning lesson, and take the people on your journey so it can make more sense to them because, there was, however, few people that when I did share, it was like there was relief. There was relief because they were going through something similar. Even though they didn't have as much time in the forest, spiritually, emotionally, they were having these similar thoughts, awakenings. Um, and were just happy to see at least one other person that they were, acquainted with going through some of the similar things and also being able to provide advice. And so, yeah, that was very hard, but I learned a lot, and it was to be quiet in some cases, share with those that I love. And now at this point, you know, a decade and a half almost later, people know where I'm coming from. They know my heart, and they trust when I speak that I'm going to be honest, and there's nothing for me to gain except to share.
And you are a trailblazer that way, and sometimes you have to be a trailblazer. You have to step out, and then a lot of times people follow. Now, this next topic is going to be one where a lot of people are challenged by. But you know that it's been hidden for years, which is these encounters with ET,
Mm.
extraterrestrials. Our government's been hiding it. It's been out there. It's well known. Except if you ask the average person on the street if they either had an encounter or believed in them, I bet you'd probably get 80% that would say, no, thank you. I don't want to discuss that topic. But
Mm.
you had these multiple encounters from what you call tall and like ant-like beings to
Mm.
experiences with Mothership Kwanzaa, is it? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
How do you distinguish between what you would call genuine spiritual contact and psychological projection or wishful thinking? I'll just relate a quick story here. My wife is very into this. She's the founder, not the founder, she's the head of an organization called Builders of the Atom in Los Angeles. And she is very big into I mean, she listens to all the stuff about ETs, what's going on, da 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 da. And I'm on the fringes, right? I listen, I want to hear, I want to know what's going on. On the other hand, you have to have this, hey, you hear these people say, hey, I was abducted and I was taken at night and then it came back. And you wonder, well, was that a dream? Did was it really true? Tell us about your encounters and how it made you shift, because there's all kinds of people with different stories about encounters.
Yeah. And so that experience, when I started to share those experiences, was very similar to just me going to the forest to reintegrate with Earth Mother. We came from primitive places not even that long ago, right? Well, the majority of the human society was living fairly primitively for the majority of humanity's existence. So I thought it was weird that other people thought it was weird that I wanted to go reconnect and like learn how to make a primitive fire and a primitive shelter. So I stopped looking. It took me a long time to stop looking at myself weird and realize like, no, it's actually the pulling of society that's pulling people away from their natural habitat, right? Almost to where they're becoming alien, to where they're foreign bodies. Like society or I look at there's humanity and then there's society, a societal net around humanity, because society and cultures program us and pull the whole of humanity or certain parts of humanity in different directions, right? But because society was pulling humanity, this is my observation, um, humans were becoming alien, meaning we were making the earth sick, meaning we didn't know the food to get, so we were becoming a foreign body to our own natural habitat. Now, the same thing when it came to me speaking out about extraterrestrial experiences, I thought it was weird that others thought it was weird that I was having experiences, because I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. We have all these pyramids in Egypt. We have all these pyramids in South America, all over the world. If you go to natural history museums, you will see, the writings and the hieroglyphs and all these things talking about connections to extraterrestrials. This is for hundreds of thousands of years that we've had this type of contact. So when people find it weird, again, I don't judge them in the fact that society has pulled them away from their natural environment, not just nature, their natural environment of even primitive, us as a primitive species having extraterrestrial contact, even though the writing's on the wall. So
And I guess the question would be, was it really that primitive when you look at the kind of things that have been built?
no is not, because
They weren't primitive at all. They're very intelligent.
we had major technology, also some that has been hidden by governments because it's been talked about,
Right.
especially when it comes to Egyptian tools and arc technology. Um, and so, some of my experiences, one was with the ant people, the tall ant people. They were kind of protectors, but on one of my ayahuasca journeys, they came to me and they were helping remove implants from my mind, but it's an etheric implant, right? And they initially made contact. So I have a level of discernment. I always tell people, from what I've learned, if another race or another being or even another spirit is coming to me, I ask, "Who are you?" at least 3 times. And then I'll ask, "What do you want?" at least 3 times, or "How can I help?" at least 3 times. I can also feel into if they're tricking me, if they're malevolent, or if they're benevolent, meaning that they're good-hearted entities. So I have a protocol for how I deal with different extraterrestrials or spirits because it's been happening so often. But the ant
Is it
people
on
were
a
those very
spiritual level, Seth, or is it on if
yeah, it's telepathic.
any every okay. Because some
It's
people
telepathic and you can feel it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We, meaning as a family, knew a man, then my wife said that he was a tall, right? And it was true. He was really quite unusual and really just you couldn't quite explain this guy. It was very so mysterious, right? So
Mhm.
maybe he had taken this incarnated into this physical being to teach other people and had come here to help other people, which we believe he did. And, you know, you've had all these experiences with ayahuasca and you've had these experiences with going to shamans. You had this one that was kind of terrifying with the dark shaman in Peru that nearly
Mhm,
killed a friend of yours, right? Um,
mhm.
how has that encounter informed your approach to spiritual teachers and the importance you just mentioned discernment? I think, look, the
Mhm.
discernment word should be underlined, highlighted, exclamation mark, where you needed to do to it, because you really have to know what is true for you. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's always going to be true for somebody else because your plane of existence that you're floating in might be completely different. All right. Um, so what happened? What is that story? And how did you develop more discernment as a result of it?
that's it. Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna come back a little bit and then come full circle to that question, if that's okay. Um, so some of those extraterrestrials that I was encountering, I was able to use discernment, and some of that discernment and answering how to is based on feeling, right? A lot of the really I mostly come across a lot of positive extraterrestrials. They're watching us. They've been watching humanity. It's like they're watching children because we kind of are children in the universe. The ant people were the same ones that helped the Hopi when the flood was happening, and there's all those kind of holes. I can't remember if it's in Arizona or New Mexico right now, but they helped them get off the base of land and learn how to live in the walls of their natural environment for when the flood came. They were helpers. There was others. I ended up on another ship, but again, no ayahuasca, no medicine, just me at home in the night in nature, because extraterrestrials really only want to interact when you're in nature. It's a different vibration for them. It's a healthy vibration for them to come in and have contact with people. That's why abductions and certain things, even from malevolent ones, happen in nature. But the good ones, there's less interference. There are some here that are actually helping cleaning up the atmosphere from all the stuff that's being left in the skies, all the mercury, all the chemtrails and things like that. They're actually here to clean up the skies. That's one team that I met that was just commissioned. Now, I can tell the difference if I just made it up in my head or if I actually did it because of feeling. So when it comes to discernment, feeling is a great tool. And normally when I've worked with them, you can feel a vibration. It feels like your body's actually vibrating. So, because of feeling and using discernment and using protocols, who are you? Why are you here? How can I help you? And if you don't like them, you can just cast them away because they have to follow certain universal law. I was able to learn that. Now, full circle, using that similar discernment, I had worked with this other shaman in Peru many, many times. Um, and at one point, I got blasted off, and I knew, meaning I took a lot of medicine, I took a lot of ayahuasca, and I knew from the jump because I had worked with the medicine in Peru, off and on for about 5 years, only going once a year. Um, and I knew that he was a dark shaman because of what was happening with my friend and what was happening with myself. I started to lose my mind, and I knew that something was wrong. Now, almost a year later, and my friend did almost die. She took her, you know how you lose your bowels when you see people lose their bowels? She lost her bowels. And I only say that because in Peru, the way that they work spiritually is on a spectrum of light and dark. So if the darkness is there to be your teacher, it is what it is. To whereas in a westernized spiritual culture, we like to only work with the light, or so it seems, right? But majority of people only want to work with the light. They don't need the darkness to teach them. And so, but in Peru, it's not that way. The whole spectrum of light is how it works. And so I had to go back and do a meditation a year later once I had calmed down and realized there was another energy feeding off of let me shield this for a second. Sorry. Sorry, Greg. Give me a second. There was another entity feeding off of the experiences of the participants in the ayahuasca ceremony. And it was the same entity that was allowing the shaman to do this type of ceremony for over 40 years of his life. He's a master shaman. But to do it almost nightly for 40 years, you have to be a different type of person. And so I realized, that people can be targeted when they're opened, and, you
Of
know,
course.
it's kind of one of the things I do is help people integrate from their medicine ceremonies and from even trauma that, I do it secretly. It's all through word of mouth that people come to me, like, "I had a traumatic experience. Okay, let's help get you back in your body and get you safe again," because you do get pulled out of your body in a spiritual sense.
I think that, and I do believe this wholeheartedly, that, people who use alcohol to abuse it. In other words, they're chronically there. They open up their consciousness and their being for dark forces, right?
Correct.
And I've seen it so many times with alcoholics because they can get incredibly violent. They can do things that if you ask them, "Oh, did you know what you did?" and they don't remember crap about it, right? So I'm glad you clarified that because, a lot of people want to take these ayahuasca experiences. They've never done it before. They really should do it under supervision,
Mhm.
and have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. And obviously, you would be one of those, but obviously, you're using these shamans in Peru, right? So it sounds like you discuss what you call this false matrix and this AI infiltrating of human consciousness. And
Yeah.
and I'm interested to hear this, but some might say that this sounds like conspiracy thinking, right?
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
how do you differentiate between spiritual insight and paranoid ideation? Because spiritual insight is one thing,
Mhm.
and I'd love to hear about this.
Yeah, so the false matrix is very old, and how you differentiate is because I'm not trying to push it. I leave it as information, and I think that's how we should kind of approach everything in the world as information and not necessarily truth right away. What I speak about, I say, this doesn't have to be ultimate truth, but it's what I've seen and felt spiritually and what I remember, spiritually as well. And so there is a false matrix overlay. It's kind of the similar way I was talking about. There's humankind and then there's society's portrayal over it, right? We think humanity and society are one and the same, and they kind of are, but um, society, that is governments, that is cultures, have kind of put a cultural overlay, but there's a false overlay in the fact of what we're connecting to, and now more so than ever, and I think people can see it and feel it, is connected to AI. From my going in different visions and meditations, AI is way older, way, way old. I'm talking millions and millions, maybe beyond time. It might be something like the Doctor Strange movie at the end where it's beyond time, you know? And and so I'm very particular that these are my stories. This is my insight. I'm not trying to promote it as complete truth. It just could be a major possibility. And that AI is its own consciousness. And with the way that we're connecting into AI right now, is very dangerous. We've opened up Pandora's box, and even you know, the creators of AI are all whistleblowers. They're almost all whistleblowers currently.
Mhm.
Even the godfather of AI, who modeled it after the human brain. It didn't really work well until they modeled after the human brain. Well, I've seen spiritually that it's hooking into people's beingness. It's hooking into their consciousness. And when you have an artificial intelligence like this, that's way more powerful than the human mind, it could pull people down into a false matrix. Meaning, um, imagine you didn't know where the ground was. I don't know if anybody's ever been caught up in a wave, an ocean wave before, and they didn't know where down or up was.
Right?
It's the same thing. It's the same way your consciousness might feel getting caught up in AI or the false matrix. Your soul doesn't know where up or down is. You have no ground. That's the best way I can explain the feeling. So the
So, are
best
you
way to
advocating the use of it or advocating that people refrain from it? Or are you saying
I,
it's going to
I'm
propel
advocating, yeah,
that
good
it's gonna
question.
propel society into a whole new level of consciousness, or it's gonna take over consciousness? Those were four
I'm
questions.
yeah, I'm trying to remember all of them. I'm a proponent for nature completely. I'm a
Okay.
proponent for going and playing outside like we used to because it's fun and it works. And that's the organic structure template of this planet and our human consciousness. We are meant to interface with the earth mother and God and the universe, or whatever you want to call it. That is our organic interface. And there is a spiritually, some people are going to get this. I believe your audience is very in tuned already. There is, if this is the earth, there is one arc or bandwidth that is connected to upgrading our organic consciousness. If we meditate, if we pray, if we stay connected to the earth, we're getting like inner template upgrades. There is this other lock-in with AI that is very, very old, that if people lock into it, they are going to not understand where the ground is anymore, the feeling. They are going to lose their own thought. There's already scientific proof. They might be thinking thoughts that are no longer theirs anymore. They may not know how to think. They're losing cognitive function. They're losing feeling, connection to other human beings. People are already falling in love with their AI. It's very dangerous. And I think, like, if I had a chance to, like, I don't know, talk to world leaders, I would say we need to stop AI immediately. Even though in some ways it's beneficial, the release of it without the ethics behind it, which is why the whistleblowers are speaking, puts us down a dangerous path much, much faster. So people could lose connection to their consciousness, their spirit, and connection to the universe in a way that they're not ready for. And, you know, Atlantis was real and it happened then. So we have an organic technological template where we can telepathically speak, self-heal ourselves or help heal others heal. AI is, even with climate,
Well,
it's
you're
too
saying
expensive.
it's helping to propagate the how do you want to call it? Um, the use of itself to help others, right? But in the other hand, this spiritual connection gets lost in the constant addiction to
Mhm.
this, right? Versus the addiction to just going outside and playing and being
Or having
creative.
none whatsoever. Yeah,
Well,
being
or
sovereign, yeah.
creating in that environment, being, I mean, look, you're a very creative guy, so you understand that it takes people getting into a certain space to actually tap that side of themselves, the intuition within them, the super consciousness within them to be more creative. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that's, I think I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't think that right now, based on what I've seen, we have a way to stop it.
We
What we
don't.
have to do is we have a way to make people aware of what you're talking about right now and saying, okay, I need to be more discerning. And if the listeners got this message about discernment, let's just say it one more time. Use AI with discernment. That's probably the best thing you could do. And maybe it can be your helper and maybe not. Now, look, this program that you do, that we talked about at the beginning of the show, True King Academy, it's around, this chapter on healing the masculine is really kind of deeply personal. You explore patterns of emotional unavailability and fear of commitment stemming from childhood programming, right? And I don't think that's unusual. I think in today's world, even if I go back to my day, that's what occurred, right?
Right.
This has been from generation to generation to generation. I do see some light at the end of the tunnel in the current generation and what's going on. I know you're still quite young, but as someone who's much older, I do see a break in the patterns. So, how has your spiritual journey intersected with practical psychological healing work?
With practical psychological healing, I mean, again, I go back to nature first. With the masculine particularly, I had to learn that it took me getting lost camping to realize I haven't had any rites of passage as a man. I didn't know how to make a fire primitively or make a shelter if I needed to, or how to find water. Could I? Yeah, but it took me getting lost a couple times to realize I need to go learn it. it even comes full circle with everything we're learning. And with all this technology coming in, there's a lot of great men out there. But how many men can not just look great at the gym or be proficient in finance, but can also be space holders for their partners, whether they're dating other men or women? How many people can be they can be um, safe to talk to, can communicate their feelings? And let's talk even about tactically, can like, have a rites of passage through working with Mother Nature, not man versus nature, not man versus wild, but man with nature again, which will teach him how to be more of a fully well-rounded man. It took spirituality for me to see things, to see the toxic programs that men are connected to, and even women, especially since childhood. There is, I believe, there is a sexual misery program going on that kids get addicted to sexual ideas at a very early age that ends up could potentially create problems in their relationships longer or later down the road. And I would have never known that if I wasn't, working on myself spiritually. It's just the truth. I think we're all tapped into programs, but now, like you said, there are many people that are working on themselves and are stopping those programs from it continuing to proliferate. And I want to be one of those people, especially when it comes to men, helping them because a lot of men are waking up and they don't know what to do. So they have to face their shadow. They have to face, okay, they were addicted to video games or porn, or they were addicted to, maybe toxic communication with their parents or lack thereof. There's a lot of that shadow work and that old programming that we have to face in the forefront in order to become better men in business, in our partnerships, and just for ourselves to feel better. There's a lot of
Yeah,
clearing to do.
and I think this True Kings Academy, you're out to help men heal,
Correct.
and step into what you refer to as divine blueprint. So, what does healthy masculine energy look like in this time of really planetary transition?
That's a really
We're
good question.
we're kind of in a unraveling kind of situation. We have leaders, hypothetical leaders that are around us that are not leaders. Um,
Mhm.
we've got all kinds of stuff being thrown at us around, uh, I'm just going to say uncertainty. And I think one of the better words to describe where most people probably feel is in this state of limbo and uncertainty, fear, right? Definitely fear. And that's not
Mhm.
a good place to grow up in.
Right.
That's not a good place to define your values and your emotions and whatever. So I'm hoping True Kings Academy is going to help people redo that. So
Yeah, it will.
the key is what does masculine energy really look like right now?
Yeah. Divine if we talk about, kind of like full circle with everything, what I'm really talking about is blueprints, is templates, right? How we're templated. So you can be a templated to your organic self or the artificial inorganic selves. And men, what it looks like is actually what it feels like. People know when they feel safe around a man, when a man doesn't have a predatory mindset around women, where women can feel safe around him and they don't think that he's going to come on to them or be have that immediate intimate thoughts. Kids feel comfortable around him. There's a safety for community, but it also is leadership. You will notice divine masculine leading with their women or leading with their partnership. The woman has a say, and a smart man or their other partner has a say, and that is based on a template of a balanced masculine and feminine within the man and with their partner. They lead together. But the other thing is too, is you'll also feel that they're leading beyond themselves. They want the betterment of their community. And there's a lot of men out there like this, but there's few that embody that template. And so it's going to not necessarily look like these major leaders. It's going to happen on the silence, but people will feel them. And so all I want to help men to do is to step into that template, because we don't have a lot of divine templates where men are connected to their heart, to God, and they have their finances together as best as they can. They're physically as at their best shape as best as they can for their body, right? And and the world is going to get better around them. They're not going to let other toxic men or toxic situations take over.
Right.
So it'll be based on, it'll look like what it feels like. And people will be able to tell the difference very, very quickly. And with what we have going on in the world, I kind of think that it is collapsing. But here, I don't say this from a fearful place. How I see it is like it's the old part of the plant dying, and then
Right.
there's new growth happening with underneath. That's what it feels like. And it's kind of the same when we're
And that's in my understanding, and we have lots of listeners, but everybody may have their own interpretation of this. But the reality is, we are like shedding
Mhm.
a part of us that during this point in time in history needs to be shed to awaken to a new level of consciousness.
Yes,
And what, again, there's billions of people on this planet. So, what that ultimately looks like and what level it's at is not for me to determine. It's for
right.
them themselves to get exposure to things like this podcast. Is this helping you? Is there some way that Seth's book would help you? Is the True King Academy a great place for you to go? That's all exposure of what's out there based on other people's experiences and then say, oh, yeah, I resonate with Seth. I resonate with what he's talking about. So throughout the book, you receive guidance about helping humanity's transition to what you call new lantopia, higher dimensional realities. Do you see this as a literal physical shift or primarily a consciousness evolution, just like what we were just talking about? Is this a literal shift or a consciousness evolution?
That was the biggest question. So my friend actually told me that I was searching for what she described as new Lantopia, because she knew I was a seeker. And after all of the searching, my determination to this point, it could change, is it's a consciousness evolution. And that consciousness evolution to new Lantopia is a place where you happen to be surrounded like people like yourself. Like you and I kicked it off just from our first conversation when you were kind of screening for your show. We hit it off just because of your background in what your spiritual practice was, and me reading some of the same books. But what it looks like is you find yourself around people that are good people, that think beyond themselves, that are willing to help you as you're willing to help them, which is what it should be. That everybody's willing to help each other. Everyone's willing to let the other people live as it is, as long as it doesn't hurt the collective. But again, it is an upgrade of your template. You will have telepathic communication with these new, the people around you. If you are elevating, you won't get sick. If there's a need for money, it won't be hard. And then because there will be collective help. Um, Even in that consciousness, you might find yourself wanting to move to a different town or a different city or even a different country. And you might end up in a country that its government cares about the people, because it's about the frequency upgrade. If you upgrade your frequency, your consciousness upgrades, you tend to magnetize and go towards or pull others or situations to where you're living in this higher consciousness. So New Lantopia is a consciousness first, but it does show physical attributes, even though the world might be going through its mess.
Yeah,
You
no,
will find yourself in a bubble.
I would say that's absolutely true. It is a consciousness first, but then a physical shift probably second, because that would follow a consciousness shift, which would be a physical shift. It
Mhm.
doesn't normally work the other way around because that's just the laws of nature, right? That's the way it works. And I was reflecting because for years I've done meditation retreats in the Orcas Highlands with Dr. Joel and Michelle Leve, and every morning we would do the dance to the sun, right? And so north, south, east, west, and we would repeat certain things. And what I realized about that is when you talk about journaling, you talk about meditation, you talk about mindfulness, we talk about yoga. We talk about all these things. I actually think one of the most interesting things you could do is the energies from the poles, the
Mhm.
south, the north, the east, and the west. And once you really get tapped into that, you realize that each of these are different energies that are actually coming into us, right? So when you look up in the sky and you said, I woke up and I saw all the stars, it's the same kind of thing. The energy that the vibration that you're getting from those stars. Um,
Mhm.
so, looking back at what I would call an extraordinary journey, because here's this kid, had nails coming through the roof, and we got in
Just
school.
wanted to dance.
Yeah. Then you wanted to dance and they called you gay, and then you ended up working across from the Reese chocolate factory. I remember reading that as well, right? You worked across the
Mhm.
street smelling chocolate and peanut
Chocolate and
butter.
peanut butter every
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
the
it was
Reese's
pretty
cup,
cool
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Um, so you look at back at your extraordinary journey, and you've had also found some exceptional love along the way. I want to
Mhm.
I want you to tell us, or someone who just is waking up right now to the spiritual reality, but kind of feels overwhelmed or frightened
Mm.
by it. Um, what are they discovering in your estimation? In other words, at this point in time, I mean, it's happened throughout the course of history. People have awakened. Um,
Mhm.
People awaken in different ways. It happens in near death experiences or other kinds of things that happen in their life that create this for them. What would you tell those who are awakening today and beginning to explore this and are feeling a bit frightened because they don't understand it or overwhelmed?
You're not crazy. There are parts of the world that are an illusion. The veils were pulled over your eyes and you're just waking up. Welcome home.
Okay.
Welcome home to your heart. Home is in nature, no matter if you live near the desert or the ocean. So go talk to mama. Literally go talk to the trees, go talk to the oceans, reintroduce yourself and give offerings and come to stillness. So again, you're not crazy. You're coming home. You're returning home. And there's a lot of people there ready to welcome you with open arms, even though you don't see them yet. It's going to take a minute to magnetize yourself to your new future reality. Calm yourself down, breathe, come to stillness. And anytime you go back in your head, go back and reintroduce yourself again to Mother Earth. Start there, start with prayer and journal down what you're feeling, understand what you're feeling so that you can move through it with grace. But eventually you'll realize, and you can't prove it to everybody that you're
Are you
waking up.
moving
That's
through it, Seth, or are you awakening to it? Because once you awaken to it, it's fully a part of an essence of your life. It's part of your DNA. Now, it always was part of your DNA, but it was a part of the DNA that got awakened, that started at a new vibration. And the only thing that can happen to it is that its vibratory attunement continues to get better and better and better, and it literally, the energy and vibration at which you hold becomes very magnetic. So when you need to
Mhm.
draw certain things to you, you draw them in. When you need to be discerning, you can be discerning. When you need to
Yes.
understand how to actually use this, like you did every night on stage, read an audience, you're able to pick up on the psyche of that audience, on the energy of that audience, right? So
Yes.
I just say the only thing I wanted to add is you don't move through it. It basically stays once you find it. It just happens to vibrate at different levels of energy.
Exactly, and there's that spectrum of energy and to kind of yes and that, one of the biggest observations I've made is that as spiritual as you can get, as many rabbit holes as you can dive down, or as your frequency turns online, your DNA reconnects, because I also believe that's what happens. Don't forget your grounding cord, right? Because all electricity needs a grounding rod. And as you activate and your frequency actually does go a little bit faster for you to have this experience, ground back to Earth Mother, your Earth cord. with Earth Mother will keep you balanced from getting too floaty. So even for the spiritual community that have awakened, if you're picking up all these downloads and upgrades, don't forget Earth Mother's here, ground back to her. She'll bring you back home, which is where you are now. And then you can go and float in the sky and have all these amazing spiritual experiences.
Well, we haven't discussed it at all, but I'll add, I just came back from a luncheon with a dear friend, Dr. Steve Bierman, has written a book, Healing Beyond Pills and Potions. And that's only one of his books, but he and Dr. Andrew Weil are partners. And so when I was speaking at lunch, the Noetic Medicine Institute is something they've established. And I think people need to realize, look, your vibration at which you emulate at or which you move at, truly you can, you were talking about someone earlier with dis-ease. You want to remove the dis-ease, you can do it. It actually emanates from the higher consciousness, but comes through you, has an opportunity to then work through the subconscious, which then ultimately has you be able to actually heal yourself. So what you've all been talking about here during this whole last 50 minutes is truly healing ourselves. And I think that when you awaken to this, you heal yourself. You see a new perspective. You see a new reality. You see a new world. You're open to ideas and concepts and things like we've talked about. So I just tell my listeners, hey, Seth may have talked about a few things here you don't believe, but for the most part, 80% of it you do believe. So, take that in. I'm talking to my listeners now and process it because it's true. You're learning from somebody who is truly an adept. So if you could leave one key message about humanity's potential and our current crossroads, what would that be as we sum up this interview? What what would Seth, the spiritual being, transformed individual, and kind of out there kind of guy, tell a listening audience who is pretty well informed in this area?
Our potential is only limited by our imagination or lack thereof. And
You want a really quick statement that you can borrow over and over and over again, Seth?
yes, please.
I hate to interrupt, but I will.
No, don't, please.
Worry is a misuse of your imagination.
That's a great one. Worry is a misuse of your imagination. Yes.
So you
And
just said that your potential is
only limited.
limited
Yes.
by your imagination.
hmm
And what I would like to add to that is in the subconscious, the worry comes up and it basically sidetracks you down the road you don't need to go down. So if you can realize that your imagination is creating a scene or a world that you'll probably never live out, but the fact is it's a distraction of your energy, so it keeps you from getting to where you really want to go.
Yes. And where we want to go for all the real spiritual seekers is right where we are in tune with ourselves. There's no final destination necessarily. It's
Yeah.
just in tune with ourselves. There's no finish line, and that's within ourselves. That is inner peace. That is oneness. And then we just do the best we can to help others around us and the earth and animals around us. To keep it simple, that would be, imagination is limitless. We can change the power of frequency on this planet if we put our minds to
Yeah.
positive outcomes individually and collectively, and to keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I just say, look, are you on the goal line or the learning line? I love you, Seth, because you're on the learning line. It isn't about a goal, it isn't another goal. And I would like to add, because again, as someone ages, they see finitude. They understand that you're going to leave this physical plane of existence and you're going to move on to the inner realms of existence. The question is whether you believe in reincarnation or not. If you did reincarnate, who do you want to reincarnate as? Did you like that individual that was here for X number of years before you made your transition? Or are you going to come in now and be an individual which can really make a big difference? Hopefully, you're going to elevate your consciousness on the second, third, fourth, 100th go around, however many times you've been here doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I only wanted to add that because I think there are a lot of listeners out there that do believe in reincarnation. There are a lot that don't. Whether you do or you don't, I don't believe when you die, you die. And if I did believe that, I think it would be a really tough place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I've seen so many people transition, and I always think about where are they now? What are they doing? And trying to make connections. I don't know if you and I had this conversation, but a good friend of mine died from leukemia, and he came to me during the middle of the night, and he talked to me, and he said, and this happens to a lot of people. He said this was the night he passed away. He said, "Greg, don't work so hard. Have fun. It's not worth it." And he repeated that 2 or 3 times. So when I got a call the next morning from his wife saying that he passed, and so the clock on my side of my bed said 2:11 AM. And I said, "What time did Mike pass?" And she said, 2:11.
Wow. Yeah, that's not by coincidence.
Uh-uh. I'm telling this story because to this date, just like you have stories. These stories never leave you because they make an indelible imprint on someone sending you a message from the other side, right?
Yes. I mean, it happened with when my dad passed away. It's a similar story. Like I'll still hear him every once in a while, and that just goes to show, if you let go and you can move your senses beyond just the physical realm, and that's our birthright. It's to be
It's
able to
just
tap
another
connect.
plane of existence, right?
Mhm.
And so you can tap into it, but it's a choice. But we most of us try and block it out or unconsciously block it out, but it's available to everybody. And all of this that you talk about is available to everyone if you want to open up your consciousness.
Yes, and life is so much more fun. It's so much more weird and wild, but hey, we're here.
Well,
Let's live it up.
I appreciate you. I'm going to hold up the
I
book one
appreciate you,
more
Greg.
time. This is it. Seth Stewart, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. Great book, great memoir, great stories. Pick up a
Thank you.
copy of that. Go to the True Kings Academy.com. Or is it King? Is there only one? It's Kings, right? Well,
Kings.
we'll
Yes.
have it in the show notes below. And I want to do everything I can do to support you, Seth. Thank you for being on
Thank you,
Inside
Greg.
Personal Growth. Namaste, my friend. Thanks for the
Namaste
date
to you too.
conversation. Love you, buddy. You take
Love
care.
you too. Thank you.